Israel is committing a genocide. That's what you and I have been told, at least, but this is a lie, and you don't have to like, love, or defend Israel to know that this is not true, and that there's no argument that can be made to suggest this. Now, ever since October 7th, news publications and commentators have been claiming Israel is committing a genocide, but let's look at the actual facts of the war. According to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry, about 71,000 Palestinians have died since the beginning of the war, and the population of Gaza is about 2.2 million people, meaning that about 3% of the population has died during this conflict. Now, out of those 71,000 Palestinians, there's a large range of estimates of how many of them were actually terrorist operatives. According to Benjamin Netanyahu, earlier in the war, the civilian-to-terrorist death ratio was about 1-to-1. But ever since then, certain IDF and Israeli officials have come out and put the number at or above 20,000. As far as President Trump's intelligence reports have concerned him, he's been able to claim that 25,000 Hamas soldiers have been killed during the conflict. So, based on Trump's numbers, we find that about 35% of the casualties have been to Hamas terrorists during the war, which is better than a 2-to-1 civilian-to-terrorist death ratio. And some independent studies have claimed that the ratio is actually far better than this, like this study that came out and claimed that the Gaza Health Ministry was actually including natural deaths in their tallies. This is based on when one of Hamas's Ministry of Health representatives admitted to Sky News that a lot of people died a natural death. So while taking the previous year's numbers of natural deaths and taking into account other factors, we find that the ratio could actually be much closer to Netanyahu's 1-to-1. Even still, using Trump's numbers and the probably inflated Gaza Health Ministry's numbers, we find that Israel has accomplished an extraordinary ratio, especially when taking into account that many of these terrorist operatives are hidden under churches, schools, and hospitals. But beyond the impressive numbers comes the issue of intent. Genocide is defined as the deliberate and systematic destruction of a racial, political, or cultural group. And throughout the war, Israel has taken extraordinary efforts to ensure as few civilian lives were lost as possible. Within the first 2 months of the war, the IDF sent 15 million text messages, conducted over 12 million pre-recorded phone calls, airdropped 4.5 million leaflets, sent messages over radio, social media, and TV, and conducted 45,000 personal phone calls urging civilians to leave hostile areas. If Israel wanted to commit a genocide, why would they be warning these civilians to flee for their lives? Not only this, but Israel made historic efforts to ensure that Gazans were taken care of during the duration of the war. Despite the false claims of intentional famine and facilitated starvation, multiple peer-reviewed studies found that Israel was shipping in 3,000 calories per day per person into the Gaza Strip. Now, this would increase and decrease at different points of the war, but this was the average according to this study over a 6-month period. Unfortunately, many of these supplies never made it to the civilians' hands because Hamas was stealing it and shooting any civilians trying to retrieve it. Now, none of this is to say that there wasn't any tragedies or mistakes committed by the IDF during the war, or that there isn't even select bad men in the IDF that committed unjustified acts of violence. But what it is to say is that Israel's not committing a genocide, and to the contrary, they actually took extraordinary efforts to preserve innocent life, losing thousands of men in the process, despite having complete air superiority and being able to level Gaza at any point. And for people who hate them, Israel is not committing a genocide, and anybody telling you this is lying to you.